going on, everybody? Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of the Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Make some noise and clap it up. Get excited wherever you are on this phenomenal Tuesday afternoon, night, or Wednesday morning, whenever the world you're listening to this show. We got so much in store as we have to talk about boxing news, boxing dilemmas, and a seemingly a mental breakdown that's coming about with Ryan Garcia, as well as ramifications for Anthony Joshua if he in fact does lose against Francis Ngannou. Will he ever be considered elite again in the world of the heavyweight division? Also, we got to talk about some NBA news in the world of not only the Rookie of the Year race, but also the MVP race, and Gilbert Arenas has said some very volatile things about NBA defense and who is to blame. Is he right or is he wrong? We're going to get into all of that right here on this show, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening, and please, before we even get started, leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts and opinions on everything that we're going to talk about. Subscribe to the channel and share the show with everybody that you know so we can build up this empire of a channel together. We are almost at 1,000, and brother, once we get there, we got something special in store. That is what we may just go live. Oh my, you may just be able to catch and comment live on this very show, on this very channel, once we hit 1,000 subscribers, because that's the goal. 1,000, we making moves. We making waves in the world of sports media community, and it's all thanks to you. So again, thank you so much for all of your support. And without further ado, let's jump right into the world of boxing. And since we're talking about boxing, it is time to step into the ring. That's right. Ring the bell. Let's get it started. Round one of the show underway, talking about Ryan Garcia and the absolute diatribe of mess that we've seen over the last couple of days. What in the world? Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, look at this. We got some problems here.
In the words of JR.
We got some problems here.
Jim Ross, you're absolutely right. We have a problem. We have a major problem. This is getting concerning if you're following the boxing sphere. Ryan Garcia, who's set to face off against Devin Haney, and for Devin Haney's title at 140 pounds, is now off the rails, seemingly off his rocker. Now, I don't say that likely, but there is some really significant, substantial, and concerning things that have all of a sudden transpired on social media, on his Twitter, and it really begs the question, where is he mentally? What does this mean for the fight as a whole? Now, I'm not one to speculate about somebody's personal life. No, we keep that personal. What you do is what you do. There's no need to bring it up or put it into the sports ethos and use it as a talking point, because it's what you got going on. Unless it directly affects the in-ring performance. Like if somebody's out drinking or doing a bunch of stuff and now it's affecting their body and their ability to actually fight and perform. Okay, now we got a problem. Hey, this is an issue. You got to change. Stuff has to go work around. However, in the mental sphere, normally that is betwixt that person and their individuals or their family or their friends or confidants, whoever the world is around them. But now it's been in a public display that Ryan Garcia seemingly has been off the rails mentally. Now, with that being said, there's two ways you can look at this. One is that this is in fact a serious issue and a serious problem. Or two, this could all be trolling, like he said that this was earlier, or I believe earlier in the week, or earlier over the weekend, sometime in the last couple of days, saying that, hey, this is all massive trolling. He's also come out with a social media post talking about how he's got his funds it's frozen, essentially. Stuff has been, with his accounts been cut off, whatever the case may be. And it's a whole bunch of his ex-girlfriend is now, or excuse me, ex-wife is now saying, hey, y'all need to send some prayers up for this brother. Something really isn't right. He's been accused of cocaine. He's been accused of drugs, but accused of all this. Accusations flying left, right, and center. It has been a very concerning thing. A really concerning thing. A really concerning diatribe in terms of what the makeup of this fight is. The biggest questions everybody's asking, is this fight actually going to happen? Will we actually see Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia step into the ring? Or now is it in jeopardy? Is it really not going to happen? Is there a high possibility that we can see this mega fight fall by the wayside and not actually happen solely because of Ryan Garcia and the seemingly personal problems that are absolutely ravaging his life at this moment? Now, I don't think that it's not going to happen. Ryan Garcia's been adamant that the fight's going to happen. He's been saying that everything's still a go. His father's been saying this stuff has been, again, trolling, but it's been trolling the wrong way. So while we have conflicting messages from all sources, per the actual source in terms of the topic of subject, Ryan Garcia and his immediate family, apparently everything is just overblown to get hype for the fight, to make us interested, to get us waiting to see what exactly is going to happen. And if it is indeed trolling, this is, boy, you got our attention. You have us intrigued. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. However, Father may be right in the terms of this is the wrong type of trolling. This takes away from the fight. The story no longer is the fight. The story no longer is the performance. The story no longer is whether or not we'll see Ryan Garcia elevate to the level of Gilbert or again show that there is still levels that he hasn't gotten to, like we saw against Gilbert Tank Davis. Or upset everybody, knock Gilbert out. And next thing you know, boom. Oh, this brother's arrived. Oh, he's legit. Shake off fully the media darling or the social media star that everybody's only claiming you as, not as a real boxer. Though he is a real boxer. He's just mastered social media element. No, he's a legitimate fighter. He's been taking on more challenges than many of his other confidants in quicker fashion than we would like to see other people following. Gervonta Tank Davis. But again, we are seeing a fighter who now the story isn't about his ability, but now it's about his life beyond just the ring, which isn't good in this sense. Because now, let's say in fact he doesn't make it to fight night. And let's say he puts on an abysmal performance and gets outclassed fully. Well, rather than it just being that, oh, okay, he's just not at that level yet. He just isn't at the same sphere in terms of boxing ability. Ask somebody like a Tank, ask somebody like a Devin Haney. Okay, he's got room to grow. Still needs to learn. He's still young, but has some more stuff he's got to adapt to and refine before he can actually say, okay, I can beat any of these top guys. That's what would have been the story if he indeed did lose. But now if he loses, there's a whole new avalanche of issues and speculation as to whether or not you even need to be in the boxing realm anymore. Because now, if these cocaine accusations by both Devin Haney, Bill Haney, and other people are indeed true, though he is saying, in terms of Ryan Garcia, that is false. If all of this stuff does in fact show to be true, and drugs and mental states are indeed affecting him, well, my goodness, we have a more serious problem than we have. Then yes, stepping away from the boxing world is absolutely apropos and necessary. Get your life together. Absolutely. We want you living more than we want to see you fight. That's an absolute truth. But beyond that, even if all this stuff is indeed fake or is indeed not true, now if he does lose, that's still going to be used against him as a means to potentially define the rest of his career. Beyond just the social media darling, now, oh, you're really not about this boxing life because of XYZ. Further hurting your cachet as a star product. People don't take you seriously only because they don't like the pretty boy persona. Fine. We've seen that in the past. We've seen that before. Good looking fighters get hated on just because. People that are popular with the masses get hated on just because. We've seen this in the boxing world before. We absolutely have. But the difference is now that hate or that type of ire or situation that's used against you, that type of topic used against you, that you can get over that. This drugs, outside life, getting into your ability to fight, the mental implications of what can potentially go on, even if it's all wrong, even if it's all not true, if it's all not true, and I hope it's all not true, that can still ride you for the rest of your life in terms of the boxing career and be incredibly hard to get over because that is now a stigma. not just for haters, but even for fans of yours, there's going to be a real concern. There's going to be a real concern for you. And even beyond just boxing speculation, beyond all of that stuff in terms of in-ring, career-wise, getting into him as a person. But if all this is in fact false, you are not doing a good job of showing it. You are not giving me any confidence to say that, yes, this is all just hearsay, blase, not anything of note or of substance. You're not giving me that confidence. You're not giving me that sense of awareness to say, okay, yeah, all this stuff is just being overblown, which is what I wanted to say. But now I can't even say that. Because even in your defending, that stuff isn't like it needs to be. Or, excuse me, even in your defending, that stuff is in fact okay with you, and then the fight's still going on, outwardly, and on your Twitter, your actions ain't showing it. Your social media ain't showing it. Your digital footprint isn't showing it. The stuff that you're doing isn't showing that we need to be confident. We need to have a real conversation as fans saying, hey, we may need to prepare for a night where this fight doesn't happen. Or prepare for a night that if this fight does happen, we could see the worst Ryan Garcia that is incredibly ill-prepared. Where the ways or the weights of life and the weights of fame and the weights of all this other stuff that he's got going on inside his own life may be getting to him. Legitimately. And I've been confident in saying this brother can be something special. And he still can. He still can be somebody who can be a very dangerous opponent for anybody in the division if he reaches the heights of his ability. The potential of what he has could lead him to be an undisputed champion. Absolutely he can. I have that much confidence in him from what he has gifted physically. And what he's already shown already with just him being a raw fighter. More than anything. Somebody who hasn't refined his skills. Somebody who hasn't been able to get his repertoire of abilities widened. He's already accomplished this much. So him at this stage still has so much more that he can do, which I'm excited to see. But right now, will we even see it is a legitimate concern. And I do not like this type of speculation. I don't like this type of conversation. Because this not only can hurt the fighter, but it also takes away from what their ability is. And potentially what their accomplishments can be. And if their downfall in a fight happens, if they lose in a fight, this oftentimes gets unfairly perpetuated on them and placed on their shoulders as an even bigger weight that you can't get over. You validated everything that I thought that you were. You are, in fact, not just a digital darling in terms of just a social media star. You're not a real fighter. You're mentally all over the place. You're a drug addict. You're a junkie. You're following in the footsteps of your own promoter in Oscar De La Hoya, who he has not even gotten over the claims and the reputation of him being a drug addict while he being a Hall of Famer, while he has been one of the greatest fighters in history. He's legitimately one of the best that we've seen. He is an all-time great, regardless of how you feel about him. Not necessarily a high, but still, he is an all-time great. One of the greatest Hispanic and Mexican boxers that we've ever seen. That is undeniable. But still, with all of that, the biggest thing that gets on Oscar De La Hoya, beyond his boxing career, beyond his speed, beyond his power, beyond the championships that he won, beyond the names that he beat, it is the fishnet picture and cocaine, drugs. That's what's followed him and stayed with him. Now, in that case, it was true. He actually did it. And he never got beyond that stigma. But when it comes to Ryan Garcia, I hope this isn't real. I hope this is all just trolling. I hope that your account on Twitter was hacked. I hope that all of the stuff that we're saying in terms of your actions are indeed not in any way, shape, or form associated with you as a person. And it's solely hearsay and or trolling to hype up a fight. Because if it in fact is, if you're faking somebody breaking into your house and killing you, if you are going on diatribes on Twitter, ramblings and tangents about stuff that I can't even put two and two together. If all of this in fact is you, if the cocaine is real, we have a major problem. And brother, it might be time for you to step away for a second. It might be time. If this is where you are mentally, if this is true, again, only if this is true, you don't need to fight Gilbert Haney. Pulling out of the fight might be your best interest, because as much as I want to see fights, much as I want to see greatness achieved, much as I want to see consistency in terms of dominant fighters fighting other dominant fighters, and as much as I've applauded Ryan Garcia for being an example for how other fighters should approach their career, taking on big name after big name, not wasting time, this is bigger than boxing. If all of this is indeed a problem, this is bigger than just fighting. This is bigger than a career. This is bigger than fans wanting to hate or love on a brother. This is bigger than all of that. This is an issue that he needs to get right in his own self. Because we don't want to see you push through this and you come out worse after the fact. So don't be surprised if in fact this fight doesn't happen. Don't be surprised if we see him pull out. Don't be. Really don't be. Because at first I wanted to come on here and say, hey, yes, we should 100% be actively waiting for this fight. Nothing's going to happen. All this stuff is just a bunch of mess that everybody's trying to push. If this is all just trolling to hype up the fight, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, X, Y, Z. But now, I can't say that in confidence. I can't. Can't say that in confidence at all. It has to be a real conversation. Maybe we need to see Ryan Garcia step away from the limelight for a second. Because if all of this stuff is showing to be true, and close family, as well as other people that have been around him, are now starting to say the same thing about cocaine, about the outlandish actions, about the mental state not being where he needs to be, nor where he used to be. We need to step back and say, this is bigger than boxing. Pray for the brother, absolutely. Reach out to him if you know. Send him support, absolutely. But get him to step away. Because we don't want, in terms of the mental nature of a fighter and a man and a person, we don't want something as debilitating as another loss to a big name star potentially be the catalyst to a worse mental state and even more outlandish actions that could lead to the absolute worst in terms of the outcome of this whole saga of what we're seeing. It's a very big accusation in terms of what can happen. It's a very big and major consequence, potential, of what can happen if everything that we're seeing and being speculated on about Ryan Garcia's mental state, about Ryan Garcia's drug abuse, again, potentially, allegedly, and about his seemingly deteriorating mental psyche. This, if he goes through with this, and he is in fact not okay, and he loses again, this could take him over the edge to a consequence I dare not even speak. Lest I don't even want to happen. Pray that never happens for anybody. Especially somebody that's seemingly as on edge as we're seeing Ryan Garcia right now. Again, I don't like speaking on this type of stuff, but it's a necessary topic to discuss because we have to get it through the fans. And for all the hate, all the love, all the fandom, all the stuff that we want to say about boxing and why we love the sport, who we support, who we want to see lose, all this stuff. Hey, comes with the territory, understandable. But when it comes to this, now it's beyond boxing. Now we got to get serious with this. We got to look out for the best interest of the man, of the person, behind the gloves, behind the ring gear, behind just the billboard. Ryan Garcia is seemingly looking like he's in serious trouble. Seemingly, again speculated. Everything could be all blasé, and all of this could be just to hype up the fight. And I hope that's what it is. I really do hope that's all this is. But if we're seeing a legitimate circumstance where somebody's spiraling out of control, we need to say you need to stop. As a public, we need to say you need to stop. You need to slow down. You need to take a breather. Don't fight. Get right outside of the ring. Because what you can potentially risk when you step into it is not worth it. It's not worth it. Again, I think the fight's still going to happen. I think that we're still going to see we're still going to see Garcia and Haney. And I got the prediction of what that fight's going to be like on this channel. You can go watch it right now. Absolutely. Breaking down fights consistently. Giving my predictions and opinions on this, as well as everything else in the sports world. But shameless plug aside, there's a real concern beyond this. Beyond the fight that we need to say with Ryan Garcia, we don't want to see this man end up in the worst case scenario. And with what we're seeing right now, with social media, Twitter, body language, all this stuff, even with some stuff with the press conference, like how he walked away from Gilbert in that face-off, not in terms of confidence, but in terms of overly anxious, anxiety, stress, almost like I need to get out of here from my own mental state. This is something concerning that we should all take seriously. And if he needs to pull out of the fight, pull out of the fight. Just be prepared as fans for that type of announcement, if it in fact does happen. But oh boy, with Ryan Garcia, you are in a world of, it's a world of trouble. It's a world of trouble. But moving on from Ryan Garcia and Gilbert Haney to Anthony Joshua and Francis Ngannou, which I've talked about before. Again, that fight is getting ready to happen on this weekend, actually, March 8th. Hey, it's happening in the afternoon. I believe it's Saudi Arabia. Or maybe later on. Either way, check your local listings for whenever that fight is going to happen, wherever you're watching. But it's getting ready to happen. Whoever wins is going to be in line for the undisputed title. Winner between Fury and Usyk. And we covered this fight breakdown. Again, you can check it out on this channel. Like all the other things, we have broken down this fight. And you can see exactly who I think is going to win, which I think is going to be Anthony Joshua. But beyond the prediction, there's one thing I didn't discuss. If he does lose, is he still elite? We have seen people say that with Anthony Joshua, if he loses this fight, his career at the top is over. His career at the top of the time, I believe I've even said that myself. His career at the elite level is no more. This fight with Francis Ngannou, him being the man to lose to a UFC fighter, which he's still going to be categorized as though he is, again, one of the best boxers at the heavyweight division, based on what he did against Tyson Fury. Beating him, having a closer shot at beating him than any other opponent has done in their career. Anyone, any other opponent. Closer than Wilder, closer than Cunningham, closer than Dillian White, closer than Derek Chisora. He's a different beast entirely in terms of Francis Ngannou. A true monster of a man. A predator in every sense of the word. But still a UFC fighter. In the confines of where your skill set is and your experience versus the rest of the boxing universe. Now, you and Anthony Joshua, the prodigy, a man who is the golden goose, the chosen one of not just the British boxing public, but was seen as the one, the number one in the world at the heavyweight division at your best when you were the unified heavyweight champion. And when you got back to the mountain, when you won it a second time, after you lost to Andy Ruiz, the man who had the world at his feet in AJ, if he loses this fight, Will he still be considered elite anymore? Well, the answer to that question is simply yes, but also no. Yes, AJ will still be and should still be considered elite. I'm changing my opinion from what I said previously. Yes, AJ will still be elite in the world of the heavyweight division. Absolutely. But he'll just be on the absolute bottom rung if he loses this fight. Credibility will still be gone. Yes, that is true. His cachet and the fear factor as a fighter will take a major hit. No doubt about it. The legacy and the risk of what can potentially be put on him for his entire career with a loss to Francis Ngannou is outright ginormous and incredibly dangerous and also detrimental. There's always bad. It can get very bad. It can get very bad indeed. We can see fans turn against AJ. Whole fan bases turn their back on him. Absolutely. That could happen. And never be taken as a legitimate threat for the rest of his career. That is a legitimate possibility. That's a real possibility. That's what's at stake for this loss, for this fight against Francis Ngannou, who's only had one fight in his career. Who's also in this fight is one fight with the win, is in line for the undisputed title. So you could potentially be the man to lose and make the quickest route to undisputed and the quickest route to becoming a champion in the history of the sport. 3 fights. 3 fights you win, you become champion. If you let that happen for Francis Ngannou, my gosh, the damage is going to be almost irreparable to Anthony Joshua. But he will still be elite because of the fact that he still is one of the best in the world of boxing in the heavyweight division. Understand this when it comes to AJ. Regardless of what you want to say about him, and regardless of how you felt during that whole finding yourself era of AJ after getting knocked out by Andy Ruiz, the timid nature of Joshua, the tentative nature of Joshua, the not willing to throw a punch, being scared to get hit, that Anthony Joshua, the worst version of Anthony Joshua, we saw that still go undefeated. We saw that version of Anthony Joshua. Well, not undefeated. We saw that version of Anthony Joshua still become a champion, work his way back up to fight Usyk, rematch him again and put on an even better performance. Actually hurt the brother. And if he had gone to the body a little more, he might have actually been able to win that fight in the second time around. But we saw him go toe-to-toe with Usyk. We saw him beat every other contender in his way. And we saw, even when he was trying to find himself again, still beating 95% of the division. And as of right now, who else can beat him? If he indeed lost, who can beat him? Outside of the top 4. In terms of Fury, Usyk, Zhang, and AJ's still in the top 4. As of right now, he's still in the top 4. What, you want to say Deontay Wilder? Deontay Wilder showing up ain't in the top 4 no more after his performance against Joseph Parker. And Joseph Parker got beat by AJ. The better version of AJ. So that ain't gonna work. Deontay Wilder, yes, we know he can knock him out. We know he can catch anybody clean and beat him. Absolutely. But do you really expect to just say confidently, okay, yeah, boom, Wilder will beat him? No. His boxing ability is better than nearly everybody else in the division outside of the top 3, with him being in the 4th spot. Usyk, Fury, Zhang, and then him. That's what it boils down to. Unless Joseph Parker all of a sudden has a resurgence and looks like somebody who, okay, he's adapted and changed. Yes, he's back at the top of the mountain. But if he does if he upsets Zhang, which yes, it's an upset if he beats Zhang, Because I'm very high on Zhang. Big Bang Zhang is an incredible fighter. I love him. He upsets him. Okay, now we have a conversation. But up until then, up until that point, you beating a worse Deontay Wilder doesn't put you in that category. For me, to be able to say that you are of the 4 best in the world at the heavyweight division. Frank Sanchez, love him. Want him to get more opportunity. Is a slick and powerful fighter. That Cuban style is still so hard to beat and so fun to watch. But he's not on that level yet. Again, needs to be given more opportunity. Needs to start calling out people more. But still, he's not on that level, though he is talented. Makhmudov, knocked out. Most of the actual good heavyweights that would have the tactics to be able to say, okay, yeah, I can beat him. Or at cruiserweight or below. Or cruiserweight or lower, excuse me. Mind you, Jai Alpatai, cruiserweight, champion, dominated. Thunderous power. Incredibly entertaining. He's at cruiserweight, 200 pounds. Even Archer Beterbiev, pound for pound, one of the strongest human beings in the world of boxing. Built like a Rocky Marciano. Just muscle on muscle. No fat whatsoever. Just looks like a wall. An athletic wall. A physique fit for a god. And power to boot. And legitimate boxing talent. Fights at 175, light heavyweight. And why do I bring that up? Because this is a point to make. That bigger, and I've said this before, bigger is not always better. The whole reason why that heavyweight division is devoid of a bunch of real talent that can challenge AJ, because there's not really any real talent on the level of an AJ. Because they are trained for size, not for skill. The majority of them. And even those who are skillful aren't at that level yet. Again, Frank Sanchez. Usyk clears everybody in skill. But fought and moved up to heavyweight. But wasn't cruiserweight. Became undisputed at cruiserweight. Now he fights with 123. Lower end of the heavyweight spectrum. Everybody else is 6'5", 6'6". Joe Joyce, 270. And most of the fighters of that same weight, slow. Not really any great skill sets to them. Relying on just, I'm too big and too powerful for you to be able to stop. They get gassed all the time. All this stuff. The heavyweight division has diminished in terms of their skill level for a number of years. It's never been highly rated. Even amongst the era of Anthony Joshua when he was dominating. Even amongst the era of Klitschko when he was dominating. It's never been highly touted because the skill gap has drastically diminished in favor of being bigger and stronger. It's not great. It's not great. Hence, yes, there's not 90% of the people who can beat AJ on his worst day. Because it's strictly boxing ability. It's so much better than everybody else. It just is. So much better than everybody else in the division. Again, the most well-rounded fighter at the heavyweight division. Power, speed, footwork, jab, fundamentals, ring IQ, defense and offense, and the ability to finish an opponent. And outright strength and speed. It's the complete package at the heavyweight division in terms of what you would want in a fighter. He has it. Hence, everybody else is lacking in a couple of the departments. Most of them are. So no, there's not 85%, there's not 90%. It's not 95% of people at the heavyweight division that can beat Anthony Joshua on his worst day. So he will still beat elite, but he just won't be considered credible. He'll still be elite, but he won't be considered a real threat. Again, because his reputation will be tarnished with this loss. It's incredibly dangerous for him. And I bring up this weight and size because, again, Georgia Wilcox won the heavyweight championship versus Edgar Charles at 188 pounds. We matched him at 196. Mike Tyson was coming in the fights 215. Wilder is the skinniest heavyweight at 212. But he's only been getting away with that because of his insane power. Joe Louis, 211? 211 to 215, maybe 220 at his heaviest. But the smaller frame of heavyweights were all better. Even George Foreman, as big as he was, 6'3", as compared to the 6'6", 6'7", 6'8" giants that we got in the division today, was leagues better than about all of not just his era, but also of today's era. Definitely better than all of today's era. And he was only 220, 225, 230 at his heaviest. So there is a difference in skill in terms of what we saw in the past versus what we saw now in the heavyweight division. Sacrifice skill for size. Hence, somebody like AJ, who has both, there is not most in the division will not be able to beat him if they are not in that elite champion status or right at the contender status. And like I said before, with the rankings of boxing in terms of who's in line for a title, with Joseph Parker earning his shot at becoming a potential mandatory, he is highly rated in the division rankings, and he already got beat by a better version of AJ. So no, this is not going to be a situation where he's going to be knocked out of the elite category. He's still going to be elite. He'll just never be considered championship material. He'll be an elite gatekeeper. If he loses this fight, that's what he'll be considered. An elite gatekeeper. Of the best, he is considered in that mark. He is considered one of the best. But if he loses this fight with Ngannou, he will still be considered elite, but he'll never get out of that tier of elite to champion. He won't be taken seriously. He won't be taken as a real threat, though his skills are indeed a real threat. Because 95% of the division can't beat AJ. They can't. Even a bad version of AJ, like we saw for the past couple years, is still outboxing everybody that he goes up against. Regardless of how much we hate the performances, he's still beating him. There's nobody at this point who can top him and get over him if they are trying to get in the ranks of being a champion. But we won't take him as real championship threat. He'll be an elite gatekeeper. Always in that top 4 of the best in the world. But won't be seen as a real threat for a title if he loses this fight. That's definitive. But moving on from the world of boxing into the world of the NBA, now we have to discuss the MVP race. That is right. Stuff is heating up with the second half of the year. We are getting closer and closer to playoff season, and we are highly anticipating and highly waiting for what can transpire with all of the new storylines, all of the ins and outs, and all of the close, and I do mean close, competitive matchups that we can see going out in both conferences, but especially in the Western Conference. My goodness, every team is either 1 or 2 losses away from being in dominant playoff seeding to all of a sudden out the playoffs and or barely scraping by in the play-in. There's a couple teams that are 1 or 2 losses away, 35, 36 wins. Any team that takes a loss gets bumped all the way down. Oh my gosh, it's an insane sight to see. But with all of this speculation and with all of this anticipation for the playoffs, comes the question of the MVP. Who in fact is going to win? Who is leading right now? And who will be able to win at the end of the season? Who's going to be most deserving? Who's the front runner at this point in time? And there's plenty of people that will say that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, brother who's leading OKC to the best record in the West. Yes, they lost to Los Angeles last night, understandable. But beyond that, they have been on a tear. This has been scoring, averaging 31 points a game, putting up exactly 31 nearly every single night. 31, 5, and 6 on incredible percentages, has been leading this OKC squad, who, while it looks like a great built team, doesn't seem like a team that, oh my goodness, They're built for a championship, but they're proving everybody wrong with how they're performing this year. I mean, with him, Chet Holmgren, Dort, that entire roster, behind Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and his dominant offensive display, they just look unstoppable. They look incredible. They're hitting their stride and they're playing phenomenally. And with him being this good on a team this good, no doubt he's in contention. Many people will have him as the front runner for being MVP because he's been playing this way for a number of years, getting better and better every single season. His greatness has become undeniable. It's impossible to ignore just how special this brother really is. And he is in line, should be considered as one of the top front runners for MVP. You also got to look at Luka Doncic, who's been playing absolutely on a tear, willing his team to a 6th seed in the Western Conference, in line again to be either boosted way up or way down with any loss or win to their record. Has been averaging 35, about 9 and 8. Has been his best offensive season that we've seen, being the driving force behind that Dallas Mavericks ability to be what they are right now. He is a hub of everything that Dallas does, and he's been playing at the best basketball that we've seen from him. Luka magic is real. Oh, it's absolutely real. And with him being so dominant and being such a big catalyst, is he the one that should be considered? Is he the one that should really deserve MVP? Though he is not as highly rated in terms of team. You also got people like Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, both of them having phenomenal seasons, but both of their teams are some of the best in the world. Best in their respective conferences. With Boston, I believe, having the best record in the Eastern Conference. Best record in the NBA. Let me rephrase that. Tatum's leading the squad. It's got the best record in the NBA as a whole, with them still being a dominant performer, night in and night out. Does he consider, or should he be, the front runner? But all of these stories, or all these storylines for the race to MVP have a different ring to them, because they're all different circumstances. And the problem with MVP voting is who in fact is, or what in fact is, valued more or less. Should it be the individual production? Should it be the team success? What should be weighted more? Because if we're going off of team success, Tatum should be the leading candidate right now. As we've seen so many pundits and experts advocate for, best player on the best team should get the award. Well then, Jason Tatum, far and away, got the best record in the entirety of the NBA at 48-12. They're, again, I believe I've said this before, but if I haven't, they are poised to get to 65 plus wins before anybody else in the season. They could get close to 70 by the end of the year. There's a real possibility if they go on an absolute manic streak. But as of right now, they're going to be the first team to hit 50. And they keep playing great, they'll be the first team to hit 60. And then 65. And then potentially get close to cracking 70. Having one of the best offensive and defensive teams in the league outright surrounding him, with him being the leading catalyst for it all. Mind you, he's averaging, if I have my numbers correct here, 27, 7, and 5 on great shooting splits. 47% from the field, 36% from three, 37% from three actually. All around playing great, phenomenal ball and being the best player on the best team. Does that quantify him getting it over somebody like a Luka who's averaging 35, 9, and 8 on 49% field goal percentage, 38% from three? Been on a tear his last couple games. Just because his team's record is 34-27. His value is so incredible though. Should it not trump, or should it not be just as weighty as somebody who maybe not performing as best in terms of with Jason Tatum? On par with Luka, because he's not. But he's, leading the best squad. Do you see where stuff gets muddy? Do you see where stuff gets concerning? Because this is where everybody who loves Jason Tatum will say, hey, Jason Tatum should get it. Jason Tatum needs it. Jason Tatum earns it. But he doesn't. He really doesn't. Because records aren't everything. Nor are stats. But statistics should be weighed more, in my estimation. If I'm gauging MVP, somebody who is able to not just lead a great squad, but individually have such a dominant level of production, it's impossible not to say, yeah, this brother's it. He's the man. He's the man. You have to have both, understandable. But it shouldn't be to the point that somebody should be getting more play in terms of their weight in the MVP race just because their team isn't as good as somebody else, though their record, while it's not great, doesn't show the absolute dominance that he's displaying. Goes back to when Devin Booker was in line for MVP, contending for MVP, though he was only averaging 25, 5, and 5. But because the Suns were so great at that point in time, he was getting consideration over some very respectable, and like Luka. He was getting consideration over Luka for who should get MVP more. It's ridiculous when it gets to that type of cut and dry, blasé mess that people try to spew and push in terms of what should and shouldn't be valued. Because you can't just have it as the best record means the best player on that team is the most valuable. No, it just doesn't. That's absolutely not true. Absolutely not. Because we're talking value, Luka's got way more. Luka's got way more value than Tatum. Giannis, way more value than Tatum. There's an argument that Gilgeous-Alexander is right on par in terms of value with Tatum. Though Tatum's a better player. But the one thing to put this all to rest, despite how I feel about how it should be viewed at, not just team record over everything, stats over record, but the record still needs to be there. But the individual production of a player should mean more than just the record of the team in terms of speaking to the value that he brings in the who is the best player this season. It should be stats way more. But somebody who's got it all, somebody who should be, and I've said it before, the leading candidate and should win MVP this year is Nikola Jokic. Again, it's not rocket science. This man, from every statistical measure, is on par or best, or at best the best, than anybody else in the world in basketball. Averaging 26, 12, and 9 on 50% from the field, 58% from the field, my apologies, 34% from 3. Had a slew of games earlier in the year when he didn't miss 7 shots over a 5-game span. Multiple perfect games this season. Multiple perfect triple-doubles this year. Has been in every metric padding up the stats. Leading has been the hub of his team's success and the reason why this team has been so dominant. Makes everything go. Like with Luka, but does it at an incredibly higher clip than anybody else in the NBA. Even better than Shea. But on top of that, he has been and is considered the best player in the world and should be considered the best player in the world by now. If you haven't said that Nikola Jokic isn't the best in the world, you need to get on the ball. You're wasting time. There is nobody better than Nikola Jokic. There isn't any. We've said it about LeBron in terms of he's the best player in the world, but other people have had better individual seasons. Nikola Jokic, over the stint of his absolute prime, has both put up the best numbers and been the best player outright. There's been nobody else. Joel Embiid, for as dominant as he is, still this season, though he got injured. Understandable. But still, over the past couple of years, it hasn't really been an argument. Or if it has been an argument, it's always been Joel Embiid trying to catch up. Similar to with KD and LeBron. KD always trying to catch LeBron for best player in the world. Embiid is trying to catch Jokic for best center in the world, let alone best player. Which I even claim he got to that zenith this season before he got injured. Was doing everything right individually. Absolutely, before he got hurt. Understand him. But on the whole, brother, there's nobody better than Nikola Jokic. His ability, his passing ability, let alone, is the best in the world. His ability to score on the low block is the best in the world. Footwork from the post, the best in the world. Can get his shot from anywhere. Has the best touch in basketball. Has the best court vision in basketball. On top of the fact that his defense has not been nearly as much of a liability as everybody has been saying it is. He plays in a style that is not physically demanding, but smart, like Larry Bird. He's quick hands, is able to swipe at the ball and cause turnovers. His body and size alone can clog up the paint. Yes, he can't run down people, but he's able to get to spots when necessary and get to where he makes it the most or hardest to score by just being in the way. I'm not saying he's elite, but I am saying he's elite at what he does. And he's at minimum average to good. On his best days, good on the defensive end. I've seen him cause turnovers. I've seen him get in the passing lane. I've seen him read defenses and negate opportunities. I've seen it. I've seen it. This man is really him when it comes to the world of basketball. It's annoying how good he is at times. It's insane how good he is. It is recklessly angry or anger-inducing how good he is at times when I watch him play. On top of his team having tied, for the best record with the loss to the Lakers from OKC. Tied with the best record in the NBA with OKC. Every analytics and just outright raw eye test production both line up with, okay, yeah, he's unstoppable. There's nothing that this man cannot do. Range from everywhere. Affects the game without affecting it, or affects the game without even having the ball in his hand. We've seen this man have a dominant performance while scoring only 4 points a game, or 4 points in a game. There's nothing that this brother can't do that doesn't just wow you, doesn't just make you say there's no denying that his production, his performance, with him being the catalyst for exactly why this team has been so dominant, that he doesn't deserve to be the MVP this year. You can't change my mind on that. You can't. You can't. As a center, putting up these types of numbers at this high of a rate, level, and consistency against every type of defense imaginable. Yet he just can't be stopped. It's just a foregone conclusion. And he's the reason why this team in the Nuggets is looking to repeat. And most likely it might happen. Yeah, no. He's the MVP this year. Outright, he is the MVP this year. Oh, no doubt in my mind that Jokic deserves to be not only the best player in the world, having that title put on him, but being the MVP for a third time, which it should actually be his fourth year in a row. Nikola Jokic he's the man. There's nothing else to say, but he is the man. He is the man. A European player has come over to the U.S. and has dominated the NBA to where it's undeniable that he's the best player in basketball. And that topic brings up a whole nother can of worms as we end off the show with Gilbert Arenas. Surely you've heard what he's had to say about defense in the NBA. But if you haven't, real quickly paraphrasing what he said, essentially defense in the NBA is bad. Nobody wants to play defense. But rather the rules have changed as to the real catalyst for why there's no defense in the NBA. And with the rules being changed, The reason for that rule change was because it was soft for European, or it was too harsh for European players. And European players were too soft to actually be able to play defense. And if they get European players out of the NBA, then defense will magically return again. Huh? Isn't that it? Isn't that just an epiphany? Ain't that just great? Isn't that just phenomenal? Doesn't that just show everything that's right when it comes to former players talking about basketball? Of course, I'm saying that in absolute hyperbole, and sarcasm. No, he's ridiculously wrong. That's an idiotic thing to say. Borderline xenophobia, maybe? Whatever the technical term is for hating on a group of people just because they're a group of people. Hey, call a spade a spade. That's what's going on with Gilbert Arenas and this whole opinion. No, it's ridiculous to say that European players are the reason why there's no defense in the NBA. Lest we forget, as, to be perfectly honest, Low from the Low Post, his channel, put on phenomenally in terms of explaining what's going on. Didn't we have Dragan Petrovic, Tony Kukoc, Deadlift Shrimp, and a couple other major pieces in the 90s that were able to earn their respect in the NBA? Arvydas Sabonis, Domantas Sabonis' father, he was great. He was phenomenal in the league. Dirk was phenomenal in the league. I don't understand what's come with all these people that are all of a sudden saying European players are ruining basketball. No. Don't we have a multi-time candidate and also winner of the Defensive Player of the Year award in rookie Rudy Gobert right now? Do we not have that? Have we not seen players in the past, like Dragan Petrovic, torch the league before he sadly passed away with being one of the greatest shooters that we had ever seen? And still giving heart on defense? Have we not seen it? Have we not seen that there are players today that have played hard, like Tony Kukoc, that earned the respect of Michael Jordan, mind you, to show, yeah, I belong here? What do you mean that the NBA was too hard for them to be able to come in and play with? It makes no sense in the world. That's an idiotic statement. That's so stupid. That's so ignorant. Wasn't it that they moved up the line for three-point shooting? Hence, Michael Jordan was able to shoot 50% from three because they moved it up 9 inches. Didn't they make rule changes because of the bad boy Pistons and them hurting in terms of what Lowe said ever so quaintly, or phenomenally, excuse me, hurting star athletes that were making money for the league? Didn't we see people like Dirk come in and still dominate during that early era of defense in terms of the early 2000s, 2000, 2005, when people were scoring 80, 70 points a game and winning? Hey, the world. Many of these changes came after European players started really coming into the league. So I don't understand what the deal is. Many of these defensive changes to soften up the game came in the early 80s. So I don't understand what the problem is with European players. What do you mean take them out and they'll be better? Take them out and there'll be better defense all around. Understandable that they play defense differently over there, more relying on team ball, team communication, more than individual style of defense one-on-one. Hence why that team with the Spurs, led by Tim Duncan, was one of the best teams of an era, dominating an era. Because offensively and defensively, what did they do? Team defense. Everybody was able to actually play and rotate and move. They relied on the team to guard everybody, not just the individual. And it worked out. Yes, maybe European players aren't as physically gifted as players in America. Understandable. Of course, you got people like, again, Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Rudy Gobert. You still have players coming over here who are great athletically. But still, on the whole, it's not on average as much athleticism in the European players. That's fine. Fundamentally, league's better than where we are as a league today. Hence why somebody with no athleticism, like Luka Doncic, like Nikola Jokic, can come in and absolutely torch everybody. Tony Parker torched everybody. Monty Ginobili, though he has some sneaky bouts too, torched everybody. What in the world is it that we can't understand that defense today is brought about because of the league? The league did this. The league made it so that we don't have defense. The league made it so that there is no real ability for defenses to use their physicality and their actual physical gifts to be able to quell the offensive abilities of the player, though the player can use all of their physical gifts to no end on the offensive end. All that to put it in shortly, on offense, I can use every tool in my tool belt. On defense, I'm restricted to Kingdom Come. That's because of the league. The league made those rule changes well before and well after players got into the league that were European. It's a ridiculous sentiment. It's a stupid statement. It's a stupid argument. It's ignorant. That's what it is. This is why everybody who's got a microphone can't be trusted. Of course, I'm saying that with a microphone in my face. But let's get real about this. Every former player doesn't necessarily know ball, though they played ball. Every former player, while we respect them, they will understand things that we will never know as fans and media coverers of the sport. Understandable. We respect them in that regard. But still, wrong is wrong and right is right. And it's ridiculous to say that that sentiment is right when it's objectively wrong. There's no way you can say that now, because now you're just implying that European players are just soft in general. Though over there in Europe, as per one of the best players in the world in Luka Doncic, it's harder to play in Europe than it is to play over here. It's more physical over there in Europe than it is over here. We are seeing Jokic two-step his way to 35, 15, and 15 on a night-to-night basis. And he can't jump over a phone book, as Stephen A. most eloquently puts every time he talks about it. Jokic plays slow as dirt. Luka plays slow as dirt. But you can't stop him. You can't do anything to them. You can't even push them off their block. It's so easy. It's effortless for them just to put up whatever shot they want. It's insane. Our physicality here in the NBA should be able to overtake that and stop that, shouldn't it? But no, it can't. So if anything, if we're seeing that players like Luka and like Jokic are able to dominate, though they're not nearly as physically gifted on the offensive end, going up against people that are leagues more athletic and physical and stronger and faster than them on the defensive end. If anything, that should be a sign to say, hey, maybe defense is in fact being hindered to a T, being hindered beyond the point of actually being effective, which is why we can't stop anybody. Now, again, Luka and Jokic, you won't stop them regardless. They're great just because they're great. That's undeniable. That's a fact. What I'm saying is, why didn't Gilbert say that as I'm reasoning to say, hey, maybe defense is waning because on paper, we shouldn't be seeing somebody like a Rudy Gobert or like a Giannis get dog walked on a night-to-night basis, or like an AD get dog walked on a night-to-night basis by somebody like a Jokic who can't do anything outside of walk down the floor. Again, exaggerating the lack of athleticism, but you get what I'm saying. If anything, that should have been a better thing to say, hey, maybe this is why defense isn't as potent, and there needs to be some changes to give them some more leeway. Because the fact of the matter is, defense has been hindered. Hands have been tied. Restrictions have been put in place, while offense has been able to open up to Kingdom Come with unabated freedom. It's a fact. It's an absolute fact. And while we love offense, with the rise in offense that we're having right now, it's getting ridiculous. 200 points in the All-Star game, 150, 145 points for teams night to night. It's not a surprise. This is not how basketball is supposed to be. It's got to be a new level of balance. Thankfully, the NBA is looking into more defensive changes to get balance back into the league, which is great. But the reason why it's not gone is not because of European players. No. It's because the league brought this on themselves. You wanted more offense. You restricted defense. You put in rules. You gave offense even more freedom. You stopped calling travels. You stopped calling carries. You stopped calling illegal strings like the Warriors did for the abundance of their prime during their dynasty run. You stopped all that, but kept the defense still tied down with the freedom that they had on the floor. Now look at what you have. A product that even the most offensively minded fan is getting tired of. Performances that are being diluted from how great they actually are because there's no real warrant to say, oh, wow, that's incredible, when it's a night-to-night thing. It isn't really. It really isn't. We got so many people in the NBA averaging nearly triple-double when it used to be an anomaly just to get a triple-double. It loses its luster in terms of its wow factor for fans and the true magnitude of their accomplishment. With players and teams scoring so much, it loses the sense of, wow, what a great type of offense and game that we're seeing. More so, it's just, it's just another night. Nothing special. It takes away from the wow factor. It takes away from the moment. It makes everything seem blasé and diluted. And since that's the case, fans stop caring. Fans don't get enthralled or enthusiastic about it. So we want to see defense back. I'm not saying it's got to be that we got to see 87 to 89 type games for 4 quarters. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying make it feel earned. Make offense feel earned rather than given. Because right now, offense just feels given, left, right, and center. When it's earned, we get to see even more and appreciate even more great performances. Because now they weigh more on the minds of fans and players. They mean more. Because it feels like this is justified. Oh, this was truly great. Because this was truly earned. This was something spectacular because of what he went up against. That's what we want it to feel like. That's what fans are clamoring for. Hopefully the NBA makes it change the right way and gets defense back. But for Gilbert Arenas and that type of idiotic statement, it's ridiculous that is even a sentiment to have. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Again, every former player, even great players, don't need to have their opinions be known. Because sometimes, like in this situation, it's absolutely overblown and wrong. And this is absolutely overblown and wrong. But with that being said, this has been another episode of The Welch Report with me, Jean-Luc Welch. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to the show. Again, leave a like on the video, comment your thoughts and opinions, subscribe to the channel, and share the show with everybody that you know so we can build up this empire of a community together. We are almost at 1,000, and the further we get, when we get there, we getting some big plans, making some big moves, and I can't do this without your help. So again, thank you so much for all of your support. Be safe, have fun, enjoy the week, get ready for the Ngannou Joshua fight, and we will see you back for another episode real soon. Peace and love. We are out of here.